Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it? You start to play it, and it's like somebody's nightmare. And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And what they say is, you will die in 7 days.
When The Ring hit theaters in 2002, it wasn't just another horror remake, it was a game changer. Directed by Gore Verbinski and starring Naomi Watts, the film took its inspiration from the Japanese horror classic Ringu, but infused it with a distinctly Western atmosphere and visual style. At a time when horror was dominated by meta-slasher films like Scream and teen-oriented thrillers, The Ring introduced a new kind of dread, cold, creeping, and psychological. The now iconic image of Samara, drenched, hair-covered, crawling out of a television, became burned into the collective imagination of a generation. The cursed VHS tape concept was simple but genius, functioning like a modern myth or urban legend. The film didn't rely on gore or cheap jump scares, instead creating a sense of mounting tension and helplessness. Critics praised it for its artistry and restraint, and audiences responded enthusiastically, propelling the film to nearly $250 million in global box office revenue. It also kicked off a wave of American remakes of Japanese horror, including The Grudge, Dark Water, and Pulse, but none achieved quite the same critical or cultural impact as The Ring.
She told me. She said she didn't have enough time.
However, the strength of the original made the failure of its sequel all the more disappointing. Released in 2005, The Ring 2 brought back Naomi Watts and even brought in Hideo Nakata, the director of the original Ringu, in a bid to recapture the magic. Unfortunately, the result was an overlong, muddled film that failed to build upon the terrifying mystery of the original. Instead of expanding the mythology in a compelling way, the sequel over-explained Samara's backstory, turning her from a spectral force of unknowable malice into a misunderstood child with mommy issues. The horror was drained of its ambiguity, and the pacing, already slower than many American horror films, became glacial without the atmospheric tension to sustain it. While The Ring 2 wasn't a financial disaster, grossing $164 million worldwide, the critical reception was largely negative. What once felt fresh and innovative had already begun to feel tired, and audiences weren't as eager to revisit Samara's story as they had been just 3 years earlier.
I'm bothered by these drawings.
Why did you draw that house?
She told me to.
Who? Who told you to?
She shows me things.
After more than a decade of dormancy, the franchise attempted a comeback with Rings in 2017, a film that would mark the true collapse of the franchise. Set in a world where the cursed video has gone viral, Rings attempted to update the story for the digital age, but the execution was hollow and uninspired. The cursed video now existed as a file on laptops, which stripped it of the analog eeriness that made the original so unsettling. The story followed a new cast of characters who were neither compelling nor memorable, and the mystery at the heart of the narrative was convoluted and overwrought. Worst of all, Samara, once a minimalist terror who needed no dialogue or elaborate backstory, was further over-explained to the point of being defanged. With a Rotten Tomatoes score of just 8%, Rings was critically panned and seen by many as the nail in the coffin for the franchise. Although it made back its budget, the box office returns were underwhelming, and any hopes of reviving the series died alongside the film's reception. The fall of the Ring franchise is a textbook case of a horror series losing sight of what made it terrifying in the first place. The original worked because it was mysterious, understated, and rooted in a primal fear of the unknown. As the films progressed, they leaned harder into exposition and backstory, draining the horror of its potency. Moreover, the franchise never successfully adapted its central conceit, the cursed video, for a digital world. In the age of streaming, social media, and content overload, a VHS tape simply lost its relevance. Attempts to modernize the curse were clumsy and tone-deaf, failing to generate the same sense of mythic dread. Meanwhile, horror itself was evolving. By the mid-2010s, audiences were gravitating toward more cerebral or socially conscious horror films, like The Babadook, It Follows, and Get Out, leaving behind the early 2000s trend of ghost girls and fatal phone calls. Ultimately, The Ring remains a landmark in modern horror, a rare case of a remake surpassing expectations and reshaping the genre. But its legacy is a cautionary tale. Horror thrives on mystery and innovation, and franchises that trade those qualities for lore, dumps, and diminishing returns are doomed to fade. Unless someone finds a way to truly reinvent the curse, perhaps with new technology or fresh cultural relevance, the Hollywood Ring franchise will likely remain buried with Samara at the bottom of the well. If you enjoyed this dive into the cursed history of the Ring franchise, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Horror R Us. What do you think killed the franchise? Was it outdated tech, over-explained lore, or just the passage of time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. And if you want to be the first to catch our next video, hit the bell icon so Samara doesn't have to remind you in 7 days.